got Lynn now back with us. The Gremlin grabbed you for a moment, but we gave him the build-up earlier. He is the longtime sports reporter for the Daily Press, from everything from high school to college and in between, 40-plus years in the business. We say future Hall of Famer, and now the author of this book, the Hampton Roads Football Encyclopedia. It has got the history of high school football in southeastern Virginia from 1878 to 2024. 1878, just a couple years before Ed was born. Lynn Burke with us. Good to have you on the program. How are you, my friend?
Can you hear me finally?
We've got you now. Yeah, after we troubleshooted all of our technology issues, we got you on. So apologize about that. I'm not sure if it was on our end or your end, but how's life treating you? It was great to see you on Thursday at Darling Stadium, and you've got to be breathing a sigh of relief. You finally got this lifelong vision of yours and project in the books, literally and figuratively.
I was never quite sure that it was going to be published. Fits and starts and frustrations and stuff. Finally, I just made up my mind that it was going to get done, and I didn't want to wait till the end of this season because I didn't want to try to scramble and reformat everything. So I decided to cut it off after 2024.
Before Ed comes on here with his hard-hitting questions for you, I want to know what made you want to do this, because you obviously have a reservoir of high school football information at your fingertips and have covered it for many years. But what made you want to do this? And as you got deeper and deeper into this, did you say, was this a mistake, or did it just encourage you to get it done more and more? Take me through that process if you can.
I've always enjoyed researching. Back when I was in high school, I would dig through the weekly newspaper back in my hometown for old basketball and baseball scores and stuff like that. And what really prompted this was, Hampton's won almost 900 football games now. This was before they won 500. There was an assistant principal there named Bobby Croft. Had been a basketball coach at a couple of schools. He'd seen in a coaching magazine of schools that had won 500 or more games. And he called me up one night and he said, "Lynn, any idea how many games Hampton's won?" I said, "I don't have a clue." I mean, this was probably in the 70s, 80s maybe. We had records going back to about 1950. So I started delving through microfilm, and I think I came up at that point with 475. And I just started expanding that onto the other peninsula schools and so forth. And as I wrote in the foreword to the book, one day I was at the Old Dominion Library doing some research, and the light bulb went off. I'm going to do the peninsula. Why am I not going to do all of Hampton Roads, considering 2/3 of the schools that are in this area are south of Hampton Roads?
Pretty cool. Lynn Burke, our guest, the author of the new book that you can get on the history of high school football in Hampton Roads. It's the Encyclopedia. In fact, it's a total of 385 pages, which would take Ed probably 3.5 weeks to finish minimum. Our guest here on 757 Sports Talk, powered by CoVA Sports TV. Coach?
Well, first of all, I got to get the book to finish the book. And I got a feeling once I start reading it, it's coming. Once I start reading it, I won't put it down. I'm fascinated by guys and women who write books. I've been tempted to write a book on my journey in coaching, but I have no idea where to start. It's where to go. I have some memory, but not probably what I need to put it all out on paper, because some of the stories they'll look fictional, but they're the real thing. Lynn, I bow to you on that, because 385 pages, and you did talk about your frustrations and whatever. Did you get help, and what kind of help was it to be able to go through this? I know you did a lot of the research, which a lot of good writers will do research on stories. This is why, as Matt mentioned earlier, how you're not in any Hall of Fame is unbelievable. And I know you don't like people talking about it, but we will, because some of the jokers they got in some of these Hall of Fames under sports writing, whatever, and you're not, you got to be kidding me. Not that some of them don't deserve it, but Lynn Burke deserves it. But anyways, get back to the thing. What other help you got in this book?
Well, first of all, there's not a lot of prose in there. It's a lot of lists and game-by-game scores, year-by-year scores, records and things like that. There's one section which is a year-by-year, basically recap of what happened that year, and that takes up maybe, I'm guessing, 20 pages. The rest of it is all lists and charts and a lot of pages in the back of all district, all state, all region teams. A lot of names and so forth, coaching records and players who played pro football, college All-Americans, things like that. So I didn't have to sit there and write a whole lot of prose. It was just mostly getting information and confirming it and making sure everything balanced out.
And I would imagine getting it correct is the hardest part.
It was very difficult. You have, Ed, you will get a copy. In fact, I had a message just before I got on here that I have mail in my mailbox. I've ordered a couple more copies. Unfortunately, I went down there and it wasn't the books. They're supposed to come in a day or so, and one of them is earmarked for you. But there are three things in there. There are yearly standings. There are like you're at Smithfield now. Smithfield's 1948 record game by game, and then 49 game by game. Then there's a little section of the yearly record, 7-2, 9-3. Had to go through and make sure for each school everything matched up, and that took a while and made me go back and do some research just to confirm things.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
you say it's just list or whatever. I don't take that lightly, as opposed to somebody that has a bunch of words in a book, because again, you're fact finding. You're going to have, nobody else can do that. So you're going to have to be, the key there is, as we just talked about, is having those facts right. Because I can imagine somewhere somebody might say, hey, I read this book in 1962. I was on the team. You have us for 3 wins. We had 4.
I'm sure there's going to be something like that. But one of the things I tried to do was, especially probably from 1950 on, was the newspapers, the Virginian Pilot, the afternoon paper, the Ledger Star, and my old paper, the Daily Press, would run standings, and I would make sure I would match those standings up to what I had. So there was a lot of checks and balances going on. Inevitably, I know somebody's going to message me and say, hey, this or that or whatever, and I'm going to feel bad. I already know of one omission. I'm not going to mention it. That's bugged me since I looked at the book the other day.
Well, the omission, put it this way: if they find it and say something to you, send them an autograph of Lynn Burke on a piece of paper because they found it. That's fine. Nobody writes. I believe, this is my opinion. I don't think any book that you look at doesn't have omissions or a mistake. Phil Steele, who does the football book that Matt and I, and you've seen it too.
Oh yeah,
we love it. As I read through it, I counted this year already 4 little mess ups that maybe not by him, maybe it's the print, whatever. But I'm not going to get on the phone and say, hey, Phil, I see these 4 mess ups here. The book is too good. And I imagine, and I appreciate that. So listen to this. Lynn Burke has my own special copy waiting for me. He's going to autograph it. So this knucklehead here thinks he had one over on me. Good job, Lynn, because we have to put him in his place. He always thinks he wants to get on there, act like a little kid. Nana, you ain't got a copy. That's why I didn't say nothing. See, I was calm, cool, because Lynn has already told me earlier, Ed, don't buy the book. I'm going to get you and I said, Lynn, I'll buy it. I'll definitely pay. I'll give you one because of the work you've done.
But hold on here. I didn't see your name on page 5, which was, again, awful kind to him to put in there. You didn't have to do that.
It's a football book. My name doesn't belong in there. Okay. Now,
here we go. Here we go.
High school football book, Lynn, Matt Hatfield's name will be in there on every page for the amount of screw-ups he has done. Yes, I could see that too. So hats off to you for mentioning him one time, because every once in a while he does get something right.
Well, let me say this. When Matt and I were standing on the sidelines before the football game the other night, we were laughing about how long it was going to take you to ask me, hey, Lynn, when are you going to do a basketball book? And
that was my next question. There you go.
Well, all right.
Hey, hold on now, Lynn. Lynn, I love you to death, but if you don't do a basketball book, I'm going to be a little bit upset. I'm just saying, because that was on my head. The minute I heard you did a football, I said, well, wait a minute. Is he working on the basketball? I don't know how much help I can give him. I got to see that.
I knew it.
Let me say this. I really started working on this book in 1984, and now it's 2025. So that's 41 years. I'm 77 years old now. 41 years from now, yeah. But no, I tell you what I am working on are not 757 centered, but for the state, I have really one ready to go after this football season. It's a history of the state football playoffs and state champions. And I've also got one ready for boys basketball. The same thing. I've just got to do some more research there and wait till after this season. And I just started last week researching the same thing for girls basketball.
The thing that's really cool is we're talking with the new author of the Hampton Roads Football Encyclopedia. He'll tell you how you can get your copy here in just a bit with us on 757 Sports Talk, powered by CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. Lynn Burke, our guest, the history of high school football in Southeastern Virginia from 1878. You said 1978. No, 1878, folks, to 2024. It's over 140 years, folks. A lot of years here. But I'll tell you how you can get it in a moment. But I brought this up when we talked about it Thursday night when you and Marty O'Brien and I were sharing the press box at Darling during the Hampton Works game. And we'll talk to you a little bit after this segment, too, about what's happening in high school football because we love getting your perspective. People love, you know this, whenever they see their name of their school or a game they played in a book or whatever it is, they see their picture in the newspaper or the magazine or now on the internet on a website. They love that, and their family members and their friends love that. And I was telling us right before the game, Maury Lake Taylor, former Lake Taylor standout Wayne Davis, you got a list of all state teams, all region teams, all district teams, guys that made the NFL. Just about anything you want to know that's happened is in this book. So if you're a current player, current coach, former player, former coach, this will fascinate you. It's one of those things, and I'm telling you, I noticed this on YouTube during COVID with the Hampton Football Media Network, going back and watching all games. Ed said it best. You'll pick up something like this, and you'll say, okay, then you start going through it, and you're sitting there, and it's 2:22 p.m. on a Saturday or Sunday, and then when you got to go somewhere, it's now 3:43. You spend an hour looking at things in this. But I brought it up, and this is what really grabbed me, Lynn. Wayne Davis, one of just 3 players from Hampton Roads in the last 15 years that's been a Gatorade State Player of the Year. The other ones being Demetrius Nicholson from Bayside and Andrew Brown from Oscar Smith, who was the Gatorade National Player of the Year. That's it in the last 15 years. But for you, besides like some obscure score from 1892, what one or two things as you went through this, compiling these lists and these scores and all this data and information really grabbed you and made you say, wow, that's really cool, or I didn't know that, or I'm shocked by that?
Well, a couple of things. One, if you go back to 1900, 1910, stuff like that, if you look through the yearly summary, some of the little notes that I've got, like one year before, Manor used to be Wilson High School. Before that was Portsmouth High School. One year, this was in one of the Southside newspapers, said the Portsmouth players had to chip in and buy a football. And that football had to last them the entire year. And when the season was over, they deflated it to put it in storage for the next year. And then there was another instance where I think it was a Hampton Newport News High School game back way in the dark ages, said something about it was a cleanly played game. There was just one instance of slugging. Another game where Hampton forfeited to a school that was back around the turn of the century, 1900, in Hampton, Old Point Comfort College. Hampton High forfeited the game because Old Point put its coach in, which had, according to the newspaper story, said they had agreed not to.
Wow.
There's all sorts of fun little tidbits there. There's Norfolk Academy back in maybe 1907 played Warrenton, North Carolina. They took a train down there, and it says they stayed in a hotel, 3 rooms at 37.5 cents a room, plus a ham sandwich for each of the players. On the way back, 14 hotel rooms for 50 cents a night.
Now, tell me this is true, not a misprint, because Ed's gonna ask me this when he sees his copy of the book. I'm on page 135 right now. Just turn to it. Kempsville, one of my old schools. I say one of my old schools.
Mhm.
Ed always says it was my favorite, 5 years or 6 years, lunch line, all that stuff. You know where I'm going with this too. 1943, Lynn, they went 0-7, and they were coached by Donald Trump?
Yes. Before I started researching this, I had no idea that there was a Kempsville High School before the Kempsville we know now opened up in 67 or 68. But the old Kempsville High School, I think they played their first football game in 1923 or 1924. I think they were called the Blue Devils. Colors were blue and white. But all of a sudden, let me back. The only way I could have done a lot of this, because I spent a lot of time going through microfilm files, burning my eyes out. But so many newspapers now are digitized where you can search for things. So one day I was searching for, Kempsville High and whatever that year was, and it said the coach was not to get political, was Donald Trump. So I think his father was a minister at one of the churches here, or he was the minister. I'm not sure which. Wasn't here. I don't think here all that long, but back in those days, a lot of times you had outside people would be the coaches.
That's wild. That is so wild.
I know. And the other thing that really shocked me, and I just discovered this about a month ago, was on the college page. There's a list of players in the College Football Hall of Fame, and I had a list of 7 or 8 or 9, whatever it was. On one of the Facebook groups for Virginia football, somebody posted about a guy who played at Hampton High School in the early 40s. I think his name was Robin Olds, or I don't have any book in front of me. Went on, played at U.S. Military Academy, and was named to the College Football Hall of Fame. And the guy said he mentioned that because the fella did not play pro football. He went into the Army and then the Air Force as a pilot, and has had just a outstanding career. But he was honored as College Football Hall of Fame. So I listed him at the last minute. Went in and looked in microfilm, and nothing outstanding at Hampton. But once he got to Army, he just blossomed.
Wow. One more before we go to break here, and we'll get a chance for people to, if they have a question for you, they can pose it to you on our chat line on YouTube on CoVA Sports TV, and I'll also tell you how you can get your copy of this book. But one thing, too, you mentioned the College Football Honors. I'm going to throw this to Ed's way, and Lynn, you can chime in on it, too. We mentioned about Gatorade National Player of the Year, USA Today and Parade Magazine National Players of the Year, which were guys like Terry Kirby from Tab and Ronald Curry from Hampton. But never before has a player from Hampton Roads, as many great ones as we've had, go on to the NFL and win championships and all these different things, Hall of Famers. But never before has a player from Hampton Roads won the Heisman Trophy. And that includes guys that were high in the voting, Lynn, Leroy Keys, Michael Vick, Ace Parker, Mike Voigt, DJ Dozier, Kenny Easley. But that's pretty astonishing that nobody from the 757s ever won the Heisman.
The year that Leroy Keys finished second, he finished second to O.J. Simpson. And the year before, he was third behind. I think O.J. was second, and I can't remember. Gary Beeman, the quarterback for UCLA, was the Heisman winner. I can't remember, but Leroy was third and then second.
How about that, Ed? Never has someone from Hampton Roads won a Heisman. I'd be curious to see if it happens in any of our lifetimes, because you would think that at some point somebody might do it, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I kind of, knowing that some of the names, especially the last 25, 30 years, that none of them were from Hampton Roads. Will it happen? Pedigree of players we have coming out of here, you would think. But, Keys was behind Simpson. People got to remember O.J. Simpson in college was just a whole nother level. Yeah. And I remember Keys at Purdue was just a tremendous athlete. At that time, when I was a youngster, I didn't know where he was originally from, the Hampton Roads area. But yes, he was one of the best coming out of here. And that kind of leads me into what I'm going to say to Lynn. And I know Lynn gets asked a lot about, man, you've seen them come and go. You've seen them all. Who's the best? Who's that? And I don't want to pinpoint you on that. I'm a little bit more open question, Lynn, in terms of in your coverage days. Do you have a few favorites, either because you liked, when you covered a game, you liked how they played, or the stats that they put up, or maybe through your interviews with people, how the kids handle themselves? What would be some players that really are going to stand out for Lynn Burke?
Well, of course, my career was at the Daily Press, so I was dealing mostly with Peninsula guys. But, there's so many that stand out. Terry Kirby, at the time, set state records for rushing, just an all-around great player. Allen Iverson. I remember standing, Iverson, of course, a great football player, great basketball player. I remember in the lobby of the Daily Press, we were doing some all-star story. I remember standing talking to him, saying, "What are you going to do in college?" He goes, "I hope I don't have to choose." Well, he chose basketball, and he certainly made the right choice there. And you can't forget Ronald Curry. Just, when I think when Marty O'Brien and I, back, this is 20 years, we did our summertime publication of the greatest athletes in Peninsula history. I think we had them 1 and 1A. Curry 1 and Iverson 1A. And of course, Iverson missed his senior year because of his legal troubles. If he'd have played his senior year, it would have been a really, really interesting call. Gosh almighty, golly. There's just so many. when I first got here, and it's gonna tend probably to be um, backs because they kind of stand out. But Alex Hill at Hampton back in 1970, I think Mike Smith said he's the best back he ever coached. Hampton also had Robert Banks, played at Notre Dame, played it in the NFL. I was at a conference or something out in Kansas City, and this was Banks' senior year, and he was being recruited heavily. And Terry Donahue was the coach at UCLA, and that was one of the schools that Banks was considering. And Donahue found out that I was from down here, and every morning he'd come up to me and ask me, "Hear anything about Banks? Hear anything about Banks? Hear anything about Banks?" It's just, golly, it's just so many people. If I name 100, the 101st and 102nd are just going to be so aggravating. Percy Harvin, just
Yeah.
an electric player. Aaron Sparrow, the quarterback at Wilson back, I think in the 90s. And when we finish this, I'm going to think of about 20 more.
You'll forget, no doubt. I mean, yeah, you could just go on the list of names. And I think what's really cool for us too, you know this, Lynn, from covering it for as many years as you have, is the connections to people from the 757 that played or coached, or, the dots that you can connect from people. It's always incredible to the storytelling that we've all done too. And you've gotten a chance to do that. And you've done that here incredibly well with this book. Get your copy of the Hampton Roads Football Encyclopedia, 385 pages, a wealth of information. Lynn will tell you how you can get your copy. And if you've got a question or two, we've got one sitting for us on IG, which we'll hit when we come back after break. We're going to hear quickly from a couple of our sponsors, such as Town Bank, Chicho's, and One Life Fitness. And back more with the longtime prep sports reporter for the Daily Press and historian, soon to be Hall of Famer, we declare, Lynn Burke with us.
They never shut up. They're always dropping pearls of wisdom. Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
And we're back here on 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe to CoVA Sports TV and interact with us wherever you're tuning in, as we have a special guest with us for another segment, Lynn Burke, the author of the new Hampton Roads Football Encyclopedia, the history of high school football in southeastern Virginia from 1878 to 2024. And he'll tell you how you can get your copy at your fingertips with us here on CoVA Sports TV in just a moment. But Lynn, one of our viewers on IG, Junie022, wants to know, it's something I actually asked you Thursday night. It's funny. What's the best game you've ever covered or seen? So go into if you've got a best game you've covered or seen, or wildest game you've ever. I'm sure there's more than one that leaped to mind for you.
I think this is the one I mentioned to you. It's 1974, Bethel playing Woodbridge, I think at Garfield High School for the AAA state championship. Woodbridge had a running back named Russell Davis who reached forward, run for 400 yards or something like that in the semifinals. Everybody considered Bethel the underdog. And Bethel came out, Mike Dunn, the quarterback, threw a touchdown pass, probably with less than a minute to go, to Bruce Elliott to put them ahead, whatever the score was. Then Mike intercepted a pass right at the end of the game, and Bethel won the championship. And that was just an outstanding, eclectic game. Afterwards, when I was talking to Mike, he said, we're not the underdogs, we're the super dogs. And that was the headline in the story. And I think I mentioned that showed up on bumper stickers.
Bumper stickers. Yeah.
The one funny story about that, too, because this is back when Woody Hayes coached Ohio State, and Ohio State recognized the talent down here. So the next Monday, Woody and one of his assistant coaches was at Bethel to talk to Mike Dunn. And at the start of the second half, Derwin Tucker, one of the running backs, had run the opening kickoff back 95 yards. And the Washington Post in its early edition had a huge picture of that. So here comes Hayes and whoever the assistant coach was into the office, and Derwin walks up to him, introduced himself, said, "Would you autograph this picture of me running this kickoff back 95 yards?" He didn't go to Ohio State. I think he went to Illinois.
Okay. Good deal. Hey, we mentioned it. If they want to get a copy, What's the best way to do so? Tell us the options for them. Will this be available in stores? It's just online, the price for it. And it's always a great, I'm sure, stocking stuffer or gift if you got a dad, a granddad, a cousin, a friend that likes football, especially if they're a high school football junkie. And there's a bunch of high school sports junkies out there. It's holiday season, so it's not a bad gift idea.
The only place you can get it is Amazon. I did a lot, because I self-published the book. I did a lot of research, and Amazon seemed to be the best. Basically, you provide them with the manuscript. They do everything else. They print it on demand. I did the cover myself from one of their templates. Right now, it's only available through Amazon. But as I said in a Facebook message, if you put Lynn Burke in, please put Lynn Burke football or 757, because there's a lady named Lynn Burke who writes books that have some somewhat salacious
Oh,
titles. And as I said, it ain't me, but it's $25. And it's available on Amazon. I haven't even thought about any other place because Amazon is such a well-known place to get stuff. Amazon trucks drive our street every day.
okay. So that was the Lynn Burke that Ed was talking to the other day. That lady was who he was talking to.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for her to send me one of her books too.
I'm sure you are.
No, you don't.
I want to make sure it's somebody else because I don't know about Lynn might have done something in a previous time and he doesn't want to take credit for that kind of book. So I only want to, if they have pictures in it, I just want to make sure you find his pictures. That's all.
I don't know.
Now this book is just, I'm going through it here, Lynn, still, but this is not a book with images. It's just complete black and white print, correct?
Correct. There's no images in it whatsoever. I had found a picture. I found a picture in the library at Norfolk several years ago of like the 1906 Norfolk high school football team, and they were the scrawniest bunch of kids you ever wanted to see. But I couldn't find the picture. So again, I decided just to go ahead and do a straight cover. So the only picture is my face on the back cover.
Okay.
I can live with that.
You talked about earlier about the players from here. The years that I covered the ACC, North Carolina at Carter Finley Stadium for their games, they would dress their players locker number 1 around in '99. Well, Woodrow Wilson, the current Hampton coach, that one particular year was number 2, so he was right there. Right next to him was Kenny Perry, who played at Menchville. And if I cover a game there and I go in the locker room, I couldn't get in until they grabbed me and asked who won the high school games up here the night before. And then Simon Gupton, the great tackle from Hampton back in those days, he'd wander over too and want to know. And there may have been a couple of others from this area, but they just escaped me.
No, it's funny you bring it up, Linda, because when I go different places, I go do the Old Dominion women's games, or I'm doing whatever it might be, a college game I'm calling. People always in the press room or wherever, they say, how about that game on Friday night with, Phoebus or Lansdowne or whatever school does, Oscar Smith, fill in the blank, or even something outside the 757. There is an appetite and people love it. It's great water cooler talk, as we like to say when it comes to high school football. Now, you told me Thursday night that was your first game you've been at since your last one you covered at Daily Press. I want to get it wrong. When you said, was it 2015 Hampton Norview in the playoffs? Is that right?
Right. Since Charlie and I got married in 2008, I'd lived on the other side in Chesapeake and now Virginia Beach. I just hadn't come over for a game. I lived really close before we moved to a little private school, Greenbrier Christian, plays 8-man football. I'd go down there and watch them, but I really had not been to a game. I'd watch them on Hampton Roads Media Network and stuff like that. But I was just amazed, back in my days, Darling Stadium by this time of the year, and Todd Stadium too, would have just been torn up because of all the football. And now with the artificial turf, they just, I think I used the word pristine. They really look good.
What do you make, and I'm sure Ed will piggyback on this with you here, what do you make of some of the advances, some of the differences that can be good or bad, just your view, your opinion of where the sport is? Because I know you still follow it fairly close, even though you're not at games all the time and interviewing players and covering it on a day-to-day basis. You're still it's in your blood. You have a love for it and a passion for it, and you enjoy it and watch it and interact with us even on the show. But what you saw from the game, A, with Hampton Warwick, and B, kind of how the sport has changed. You mentioned turf being new, and we've got it at so many different schools and stadiums like Darling and Todd on the peninsula, high schools like Taylor throughout the beach, and so on and so forth across the state. But football with the 6 classifications has kind of been the biggest change we've seen in the last 10, 15 years, right?
Yeah, all of a sudden, instead of the Peninsula District, the Eastern District, the Big Championship meaning something for playoff advancement, it doesn't really mean anything as long as you've got the power rating. Now, chances are, if you have the best record in the district, you're going to have a high enough power rating, but there's always that chance. The other thing that's really disappointing is to see the schools that no longer play football, or the turnout is down so far that they've dropped to 8-man football. Matthews has spurted a couple of times trying to start football back up, and they played 2 games this year, and because the numbers had to drop it, I just saw that Galax out in western part of Virginia, they dropped football. smaller private schools around here have gone to 8-man, which is it's a fun game to watch, but the numbers are down.
Yeah, they are, and I think that's going to probably continue, unfortunately, in some parts of the state, which we're seeing more and more forfeits. Ed.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of my questions too. Is if anybody has really seen changes over the years, I would be interested in see what Lynn thinks about changes, good, bad, different, indifferent, is it advances sport, because that's kind of the name of the game. Is so many changes. We look at the college level with transfer portal, NILs, and there's some places there are NIL deals in high school. And of course, the transfer portal in high school has always been there. We just kind of turned a deaf eye to it. Players changing so much.
No, we haven't, because you bring it up. You bring it up from time to time, so we don't turn it.
Well, I have to, because nobody else will. He's one of the guys that just wants to hush it.
That's why in my previews we always say so and so with a comma transfers from such and such, and we just we don't have to spend 3 hours on it or 3 paragraphs on it.
Speaking of books, I got the Blue Ribbon basketball book, and I was looking at it this week, Lynn. And what I've noticed about it, I'm not sure if you've seen it over the years, and it's one of the best for college basketball. But when you read the top 25 selection in there, and they go through each team, all their players, and I started reading about, who's coming from where, it's crazy now, right after their name, instead of hometown or whatever, it lists all the schools they're coming from. And there's guys in there that this is their 5th college, or there's one guy in there because of injuries and medical redshirt. This is his 7th college. He's played 6 years of college basketball. And sometimes they'll put in there that he's played at 2 JUCOs. He was at a prep school. And I'm like, back in the day, you never saw that. You saw hometown, high school, and you might have 1 or 2 that played one other place. And for whatever reason, now they're but it's just a sign of the times. But, the question I wanted to get with Lynn is we were talking a lot about players. Being one, I got to ask, coaches over your time.
Oh, geez.
Who are some of the coaches that stood out to you for whatever reason? Not saying who's the best. I'm not going to put you on the spot. Who's the best coaches out there? No. Coaches that just kind of, when I say the word to you, football, it comes to mind some guys that pop up for whatever reason, and you can even put the reasons in there.
Well, the first reason, of course, is Mike Smith. His first year as a head coach at Hampton was my first full year at the Daily Press. I came in the fall of 1970. It was the last year of the Hampton Newport News game, and Johnny Palmer was the coach at Hampton, and then he left to go back to his hometown at EC Glass. And Mike actually took the coaching job at Pembroke, but then when Palmer left, he got back over to Hampton, and of course had a record. He's the 3rd winningest coach in the history of football, whatever level you want. Kozlowski at Bethel, Charlie Hovis at York, and then Tad. He was always just fun to be around. He'd laugh and joke and all that. Always got along well with Charlie Nuttycombe at Menchville. If I call him up and say, Coach, I want to come up and talk to you. This is before they had security in the schools. I could just walk up to his classroom. He'd give him some assignment to do the last period of the day, and I'd sit back in the back of the classroom and chat. And of course, you can't do anything like that now. But that was a different time. A guy that I really liked, old Pembroke High School, Howard Jackson. Howard was the dean of boys. We were in his office talking one day, and I was kind of behind his desk against the wall, and we're just having a good chat. And like I say, he was the dean of boys. He was a disciplinarian, and 3 kids came in. They'd been sent down, and he turned around and just ripped them a new one. Oh, it was the paint came off the walls. Then he turned around, looked at me, and put this big wide grin on his face, and his eyes went wide. Turned around and yelled at him again. And I thought I was going to fall over laughing, but I knew I couldn't because that would just ruin the moment.
Sure. Well, before we let you run here, Lynn, and we thank you so much for coming on, and we look forward to chatting with you more about how the book is doing and the sales with it. And again, get your copy on Amazon, $25. I mean, you're basically playing like, was that 2 cents a page? I don't know the math on my head, but it's a pretty good deal for all that you have available for you. Ed is now back on the sidelines after the 1 year hiatus of driving me crazy to where I was starting to go bald. And you know what that's like. But any sound advice you can provide Ed about now taking over the Smithfield Packers as he is embarking on a challenge to now go seek 600 plus wins after getting his 500 victories?
He's been out of it for a year. So he has a lot of pent up energy. Who's the athletic director over there? Pat Doolin? Is that who the athletic director
Pat
is?
Doolin, yes.
I
Yeah.
would advise Pat to buy a seatbelt and put it around Ed because he's going to be so hyper and so amped up at games. Doesn't want the referees on him too much.
Yeah, this is true.
I think the better question, Matt, for Lynn would be, what do the people of Smithfield need to do to get ready for Ed Young?
Well, that.
Enjoy.
And you said enjoy?
Nothing about any of the other coaches they've had, but enjoy having a real professional teaching their kids. I know I'm saying nice things about you, Ed, and that
Yeah,
you don't have to.
Well, one thing I want to know is what's your over under on number of technicals he gets issued during this season coming up?
Well, I don't have anything to base it by, so I don't know. I'll say 4.
4. Oh wow! I thought you were going to say 2.5, and that would put you got to make a pick. You go 4. Oh man!
I just picking a number out.
Okay.
Some referee's gonna call a block when Ed thought it should have been a charge or a goaltend when it wasn't, and
that's going to definitely happen. Well, the last time he got teed up was against our good friend, the late great Ben Moore, when he told an official about moving the chair, and Ed decided to give him his. Is that your last technical you got, Ed, or have you gotten one since then?
I'm not. I remember that technical vividly, but I don't think I have got that. That was just that wasn't deserved.
No, you deserved some you didn't get, but that one wasn't. I actually agree with you on that one. Yeah.
Way back in my high school days, back in the 60s, our coach, referee at one of the games he had played college basketball at one of the Division III schools in Ohio. One of the officials of the game was one of his college teammates. He made a bad call against our team, and as the guy's running past the bench, our coach rather profanely said, "You weren't any good in college, and you're not a good ref either." And
that's something Ed has said to some people before.
I could see myself saying that. I really could.
Yeah.
Lynn, I'm much calmer over the last few years. Since you retired, I'm much calmer to sideline. I'm yes, sir, no, sir. Ask him how his garden's growing, how's things going with the vehicle, everything cool with the wife, or if they're not married, a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Then based on that, I'm going to reduce my prediction to 1.
1.
I like
okay,
that.
You shrunk it from 4 to 1. I thought you'd say 3 at that point, but okay.
And it'll probably be by a rookie official who doesn't really know how my mind ticks. The veterans already know me. They don't. A lot of them just ignore me, and I don't cuss, and I don't do the stomping like I used to. So they just say, he's animated, he's into it, he's passionate. As long as he don't cuss or whatever, we let him go, and he's not in the middle of the court. So,
well, and I also know that you're a famous for how you dress at games. Have you gone out and been fitted for blue and gold suits?
Oh, that's a good question.
I already have the blue. I don't even know if it fits because this knucklehead over here somehow got me to have to buy a new blue suit on a previous bet with at Norview. I think was one of my former
Jonathan Wilson, who's now the football coach at Granby. Yeah, you lost that wager with him.
And I wore the blue suit.
First
time I wore the blue suit was against Ben Moore because Ben was like,
well, that might have been why you got the tee. Was it that night or was it different? That was a different night.
No, that was a different night. That was a different
night.
Maybe
that guy was seeing you up for the blue suit. He didn't like it. Didn't look good on you.
So Ed, if I send you a copy of the book, will you give me free admission to one of your games?
Lynn, I've told you forever and ever. I got a seat right next to me. You can have that at any time.
No.
Right there. You can even, like he does, give me, hey man, you should be in the zone. What the heck are you doing? How did they hire you? Stuff that he says to me. So anytime you're more than welcome there. December 4th is our first home game. I would love to have the people that have backed me in the past to be there for my first home game against Smithfield.
I won't sit beside you. I'll be at the top of the bleachers so you can't tell who's yelling.
Yeah, that's right. But I told us to Lynn too the other night. He ended up paying admission to Darling. I said, you should be getting like a lifetime achievement award and a pass. You shouldn't be paying to go to the games now, even though you're not technically covered as well. I would never do that. Of course, Ed and me are too cheap. So
the good thing about it is being as old as I am, senior citizens get in for Darling Stadium for $3 plus a $1 service charge.
Oh, there you go. It's like the discounts you get like at the restaurants and places. There you go.
Yeah. Before we go, one last funny thing.
Sure.
Once publicity came out on the book, Justin Vias, the athletic director at Hampton, he puts on Facebook, some of y'all going to find out you weren't as good as you thought you were.
This is true. Those stories, because I'm telling you what's funny. you encounter people all the time that talk about, oh, yeah, I played for such and such, and I had 8 sacks against this team, or I had 3 touchdowns, and I was all district, all region, all state. Then you come to find out after you do research, and you've encountered this, Ed, Lynn, as have I, with coaches, even guys like Ed Young that will report, hey, my guy had 26 points and 12 rebounds, and you say it was really like 22 points and 8 rebounds, whatever it might be. But the embellishment of statistics, which is, I think, commonplace all across the state. Anybody that says they don't do it, it's the most bogus thing we've encountered, Kevin, to keep statistics. But I get it. Some coaches do it for the benefit of trying to make their kids look even better than what they are. But so I'm not trying to crap on them all, if you will. But it happens everywhere. There's no doubt about it. But this is a great data check, if you will, and research check, and get your copy. It's available on Amazon. The Hampton Roads Football Encyclopedia, put together by Lynn Burke, the one and only. Always a pleasure, my friend. Great to chat with you, and thank you for doing this and coming on with us.
This is the first time I think I've been on with you guys since you've been in this format.
Yeah, from radio to podcast. As he was an occasional fill-in for you on the radio side of things, Ed. So you owe him at least 7 or 8, I think, meals somewhere for all those fill-ins.
I also had to fill in one morning when you were stuck in traffic, Matt. And I had to open the show, say, this isn't Matt, this isn't Ed, this is me.
That's right. He did do that once or twice. A couple of times we had assignments and fill-ins, And
it was one of our highest rated shows ever with neither one of us on.
It probably was. But
when I left, the station manager had a note on my car said never again.
Probably true. Hey, Lynn, you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
We certainly will. Good to talk to you guys as always. And Ed, good luck.
Thanks, Lynn. I appreciate it. And when you get that Hall of Fame call, no matter where it is, this guy and we're going to make sure we take you out to the best steak place, man. You and your wife both, wherever you want to go. You two want to go.
Forgot somebody. You owe Lynn, Charlotte, and Willie Gauze a steak. The new basketball
Willie can come too
because you have not paid up your steak bet with Willie from beating him in overtime a few years ago. So.
Where's Willie now? I remember seeing that he's back.
Yeah, he left Kickinton, and he actually coached at Work before that, but he's now the new basketball coach at Phoebus, and he is reminded, as have I, that he still is owed a steak by Ed, who has not paid that up yet. So,
well, good. Guys, good to talk to you. Good to talk to you guys as always. And good luck.
That is the one and only Lynn Burke with us here, longtime sports reporter for the Daily Press, and now the author of the Hampton Roads Football Encyclopedia. Nearly 400 pages of just tons and tons of information. We're going to take a time out. We've got more coming your way, including more high school football chatter with you right here on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and